Ravens. They make the weirdest sounds. This raven, a bunch more, as well as magpies, were all hanging around this poor little elk. I'm not entirely sure what happened to this little guy. Hit by a car, maybe. Unlikely. Maybe killed by a cougar. But it was lying in the ditch, and the birds were making short work of it, helping return its nutrients back to the forest that it came from. But of course there was still plenty of life out in the foothills. These whitetails were trying to negotiate the deep snow. This one decided just to take a rest. Meanwhile, up in the blowing snow on the top of the hill was the herd of elk that little elk must have belonged to. They were braving the cold weather, like elk always do. But for some reason they seemed a little bit leery of me being parked there taking their pictures, so I moved on. It was a little brighter in the foothills to the south, and it looked like there was a bit of sunshine on the mountains, of which there was very little right here, so I headed west. I headed for a road that I thought might be snowed in, but actually it had been plowed, and it was a nice, easy, pleasant drive. It was also pretty cold, but with that bit of sun shining through, it felt a lot nicer than it was. But of course it wasn't warm enough to melt anything, and I found this white-tailed buck sheltering under a spruce tree. The rutting season is pretty much over, so I imagine he was just taking a rest. I didn't linger long out that way because the days are just way too short. And I found these horses standing stoically in the falling snow. And of course, the wind. But the clouds to the west were breaking up, and I came across the elk herd again. There were considerably more elk than I originally thought. If you listen carefully, you can hear them talking. Seeing the herd made me think about that little elk. It's sad that it's gone, but its remains will go back to the land, through the birds and the grass and the trees. And in that way, it will live on.